Hey, what's up, guys? This is Jordan Anderson, and welcome to Your Film, a Playground podcast. We have a very special episode. Episode 3 is bringing the Discovery VR team. We have Griffin Harrington, and we have David Bittner, better known as Bittner. What's up, guys? What's going on?
Hey, what's going on? How are you guys doing?
Doing well. We're really excited to have you on here. We've been really excited about this episode for a couple weeks now, so lots of questions and totally stoked to see what your guys' insight is on the VR world.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Definitely,
Yeah.
I feel that 360 video in this VR age didn't exist in 2014. Like,
No.
at all. Like, it just didn't exist. I remember the first video I've ever seen, I think, was Roman Atwood. 360 video in 2015. That was the first time I've ever heard of that.
Oh, yeah.
So what actually originated, like, what was, like, the first thing to be put out into the public in terms of VR?
So VR is actually, well, there's two things. We like to look at it in two ways. There's VR, which has been around for a while. There have been HMDs, head-mounted displays, since the 1920s. They've been really broken and outdated, and none of them really worked. Or they were the size of a room, and there would be screens that you'd use mirrors to look into, and it was never a real way to watch VR. Until 2010, 2011, when Lucky Palmer came out and was like, I got something on Kickstarter. And the Oculus was born.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, like, VR, we talk about this all the time. We're VR. It's
You're trying to say there's a difference between 360 video and VR.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Because 360 video is using GoPros and what we see on a lot of times on Facebook and YouTube. YouTube now is a 360 player, but there's also
you swirl around the screen.
Yeah.
And
The
Kind of like
windows.
like Star Wars did those promotions where you could
Yes.
drive around on Jakku and you could see the entire planet more or less, but it was still a linear path.
Right, and
Okay.
like now, like so there's two different things. That's what he said. So 360 and video, and then there's also VR, which could be CGI, but it's usually because it's all about the not the display. What am I trying to say? The
you can control
delivery.
the world around you too,
Right.
or manipulate
Okay.
things.
Okay.
So does that mainly have to do with is the biggest difference between 360 video and stuff and actual virtual reality the number of axes that you have movement in? Is that kind of the idea or no?
That's a good way to say it. We look at it. We make VR too. It just depends on how you experience it and how much interactivity you have in it. So when you watch Discovery content in 360 in a Oculus, we consider that VR because we're giving you two different images, and you have depth and you move and you control your experience with your head. And so it's when we block off everything other than the video, we look at that as VR. But our app, when you're not in Google Cardboard mode and you're just using the magic window, or you're on your Facebook feed or on YouTube, it's kind of been established in the last few months that that's like 360 video. So it's a total tangent, and it's just only because we've been talking about it recently and we've listened to a lot of panels.
Right, and actually panels. So at Real Screen, it was a summit in DC about nonfiction media, and it's this huge summit. People come from all over the world, and me and Griffin at different days ran the booth. So the day I was helping run it, we had a guy come up and watch our stuff, and he didn't seem very impressed. And he was like, "Well, this isn't VR. This is 360." And I'm like, "Turn around." And he turns around. And he's like, "Whoa, this is VR." I'm like, "Oh." It's like, so like it really. I guess I think I confused you in the beginning. So basically 360 and VR could be the same piece of content. It's just how you view it. It's how you
Experience
ingest it. It's how you experience it. So like Facebook, YouTube, that's 360 video. But if you take that same video and watch it in Google Cardboard or Gear VR or Oculus or HTC Vive or whatever, you use your head like Griffin was saying, and that is considered VR.
Is it essentially like sensory deprivation to a certain extent when you can deprivate your view of the outside world you're in VR, but when you're watching it, and you can still be aware of everything outside, that is 360 video.
It's a level of immersion.
Yeah,
right.
That's
Okay.
a good way to, level of immersion.
Cool.
Sorry, it took us a way to get there, but I think we got there.
What was the
Yeah,
original question?
absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
I
that
don't
was
know.
that was fantastic because what actually helped me completely understand, like, I was trying to piece it together the entire time, and then when you said VR is Oculus and 360 video is Facebook and YouTube, that instantly
Good.
I got that connection.
That's true, yeah. And it could be the same pieces of content. It's just how you view it.
Right, it's how you interact in it. So how did you guys get into the VR world? Like how did you guys get your start into that? Because that's a very different. I mean, I'm sure you guys went to film school and maybe did some visual effects stuff or camera work, and then are now at Discovery VR.
Yeah.
So you take it first.
Yeah, I was hired in June. In my background, I'm in photography, a little bit of film. I made music videos and stuff, but I was
Cool.
like a heavy photojournalist. Like I ran a magazine. I was the sports photographer. I did work for the Washington Post. Like I'm a photographer. And then I knew a guy, and I came in, and I had an interview, and the head of Discovery VR, he asked me, "Have you ever heard of virtual reality?" And this is like in May.
Okay.
I was like, I read a Wired piece, but that's like it. So from there, he's like, okay, great, you're perfect. And he hired me, and then I went away. I left. I stayed in my basement for 3 straight weeks, and I came back, and I was really confident when I told him I've read everything on the internet.
Oh,
everything.
wow. Wow.
And I came back. I told him what we needed to buy. I told him my super basic version of what the workflow is going to be. And then we just started cooking. We just started shooting, making, and then we were building up for this launch day in August. It was really incredible. We just kind of figured it out. I didn't hear it before May, and then all of a sudden by June I had made 6 VR videos. And it was awesome. It was just kind of a random, perfect alignment of my skills, because I really love it, because I come at it from a photography standpoint. So I'm really specific about the image.
Okay.
How it looks, color, stitch, all that stuff. I had a little bit of story experience. I went to film school at JMU. I was in digital video, but I took like 1 script writing class. I don't consider myself a real filmmaker. I'm much more of like a content creator, a image maker.
Okay.
And it worked out really well. I had the right mindset. I was able to forget everything that I knew about filmmaking, because the language is completely different. You have to kind of forget everything and start learning again, because you can't do so much of what is the linchpin of filmmaking. Story is completely different. The way that the intelligent, the audience isn't intelligent yet. We've had 100 years in film where we started back with those great art pieces from Germany of like rain slowly falling, and where a whole film could be a train just moving through, like that was a whole film. And it was like the shots were 40 seconds and they'd cut to another thing. It was like, whoa, it was so jarring. We're there right now. Like that's where we are. The audience doesn't know how to experience it yet. We aren't smart.
So do you guys see this as like the next step of evolution in film?
I think it's something different.
Yeah,
It's a new medium.
I don't know. I'd say it's too early to tell.
That's fantastic.
Interesting.
I mean, I don't think film knew it was the next medium until years after.
It was just a lot of photographs in a row.
Yeah. So, and this is right. Film is a lot of photographs in a row, and VR and 360 is just a lot of video.
Is
around
real
you.
life.
Is real life.
Well,
So,
it's like closer
yeah.
to recreation.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But do you want me to answer that question too before we go on?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, talk
Sure.
about how you got your start and.
So anyway, so I in college in the same department, much more geared to filmmaking. I want to direct. That's still my end game.
Nice.
And I love film. I love cinema. So that's exactly why I'm in VR right now. Because it's completely different.
Yeah.
And it makes all the sense in the world. So I graduated. I did stuff like took some photographs, but I did a lot of music videos and promotional pieces. I worked for the university doing promotional pieces and I filmed theater productions, and I filmed like the JMU Opera. I did something with them, and I did a lot of different types of videos, and that's kind of how I marketed myself. I was a very diverse film guy, and so I graduated, and I went to LA, and I actually lived in LA while Griffin was hired and doing his thing in VR before Discovery VR was really even a thing yet. I was over on the West Coast doing being an assistant editor, which is a lot less
Sexy.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, good. That was true.
Yeah.
I came in with 2 interns every day. I interned. It was through JMU, and I sat at a desk. And the very first, I think the first 2 weeks. This is only a 2-month thing, and the first 2 weeks I didn't really do much. And then they decided, oh, we should probably use these guys. And then when they found out that we actually could edit, they were like, oh, we should actually really use them. So by the end of the 2 months, I was editing one of their pieces. But then I didn't have enough time because they didn't give me enough time because they didn't trust me in the beginning, and it was that whole thing.
Of
so
course,
anyway,
that's how it always goes.
Living in LA, yeah, of course. And living in LA was a fantastic experience. It was great. Might move back there someday. Who knows?
Nice.
So I moved back, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. So I look into some commercial stuff. I look into some news. I was like, no, this seems cool. I'm like, what do I want to do? While I was over in LA, I saw Griffin posting Instagram photos. I'm like, oh, that looks kind of cool. What's that all about? So I did a tiny bit of research. Nothing like locking myself in a basement for three weeks, but I did a little bit of research, and I was like, oh, that seems cool. Well, then Griffin reached out to me, and he's like, hey, we're looking for another Stitcher editor or producer. What do you think? And I'm like, sure. What's the I don't have a job right now, and that sounds freaking awesome. So why not?
Yeah.
So I came up. I met my boss, my current boss, and I've kind of met people, and I was like, cool. I'm like, so was this a interview? He's like, I'm like, all right. So I leave. That's exactly how it was. And I leave, and like a month later, he contacts me. He's like, hey, you should come up again. I'm like, okay, is it an interview? He's like, So I get all dressed up. I bring my resume. I'm ready for an interview.
You came way too prepared.
Yeah, way too prepared. They basically already hired me at that point, which I didn't know. And they looked at my reel, and they were like, okay, cool. I was like, cool.
It's very casual.
And they're like, yeah, so when can you start? And I was like, oh, that's it. I'm like, that was the interview? I've been in interviews that take place over a month, and this was so incredibly
several
easy.
Interviews, yeah.
Anyway, I'm going way too far into this. So I got the job, and I'm coming in it more as a filmmaker, more as in the production side.
Okay.
So I am worried about the image, but I'm more worried about the backing of how to get to that image and the storytelling aspect.
Okay.
And so that's where I'm we make such a good team, because he's coming from photo, I'm coming from video, and this is the merge, and it's it's a little perfect team we got going on now. So yeah. So to answer your question before, you had talked about. Oh, sorry.
No, I got one. Yeah, we touched on it a bit about how this sort of a new medium emerging, and so audiences have to learn how to take in this medium. Can you talk about how filmmaking is very, when you watch a movie, it's sort of passive, where you can be passive, whereas this you have to be an active member of this medium.
It's more interactive, right?
It's super tough. There have been a few pieces where I've been incredibly impressed by the movement, because a lot of this, especially if you're wearing a headset while you're watching it, it's a very physical act where you're actually turning, you're actually looking up, you're turning around, and so we talk about it all the time. But if the action happens over here and it moves, you can't just have the action start again over here because you miss it. And so you have to be while you're stitching and editing, you have to really be mindful of the movement that's happening in the shot previous and the shot after. And if you don't shoot it that way, you kind of can't fake it. And it informs us a lot now on the shooting side of planning ahead, and having a very clear idea of the actions and intention that we have behind our movements. So, for example, one thing we're working on now is we wanted to have a shot that showed intensity and showed power, and so we had our character, we had our camera lower and our character higher. Super simple film idea,
right?
But it was kind of new because you're a very active viewer, and so you have to actually look up. It's not just like a film shot that like looks up. It's like you actually have to like look up at the guy.
Oh, interesting.
And then on the flip side, later in the video, you look down at the people that you're around. And so it was just a fun little movement where it's like you start up here, and then you go into a few different scenes, and then you look down. And it's like a physical movement, and it's tough because of how few and far between the headsets are. We don't think a huge number of our viewers are going to be on headsets yet. They will be eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, a lot of our viewers are coming through 360 video, through YouTube, Facebook, etc. So using your WASD or whatever to move up and down, it's a very different active movement than actually moving your head. So those are it's just an interesting, it's an interesting like new way to look at film, is you have to think of it in both the way that the viewer's going to watch it, and then also the physical movement that's going to have.
Well, so the idea for me, how I interpret what you just said is, in traditional film, with the camera, you have the ability to guide where the audience is going to look. I mean, that is the power of the filmmaker. However, you guys have to make compositions that require the audience to make the decision to look in a certain direction, and they're kind of the ones, but it's a combination, right?
And that's the trick that people have been trying to find out for the last, I don't know, year?
18 months.
Yeah, 18 months.
Wow.
Is how to direct. Cinematographers now have to direct the action, so it's almost like the job of the cinematographer and the director are the same in VR. So I'm sure that the language is going to change and morph, and VR is going to create its own language. It already has started to. Oculus has a little dictionary. Griffin said that to me like my first day. He was like, "Study up, buddy." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." So I did, and I read, and that taught me a lot in just watching, just watching panels and stuff. Has just taught me a lot too. But to go back to Jordan's question, at Real Screen, a guy in a suit. It seemed like he was, he was making the dough, and he was very cleaned up, and he was very, he just seemed prestigious when he walked around. He was like, "Oh, I'd like to try this." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So he tries it, and like he's looking forward, and he goes ballistic, and he looks around, and he's like a little kid. And he saw the lion, and he screamed, and he jumped back. I thought he was going to hit people. He took the headset off. He's like, that was incredibly, incredibly real. And it took me back to a moment that I had in one of my classes in college where we studied, I think it was the Great Train Robbery.
Right, where people saw the gunshot and everyone in the audience freaked out.
Yep, and I saw that. And it's
wow.
like we are literally back 100 years.
That's
like
incredible.
Griffin talked about it earlier. People watched 45-second long shots of trains moving and lions. Well, we put out experiences of 45 seconds of lions. So it's like we're literally everything. That the theme of this is like everything old is now new again, because you can experience all these old things, in a brand new way.
That's incredible.
It was incredible to see that reaction. It was kind of funny.
So you guys are like the D.W. Griffiths of our time.
We're year one. Yeah.
Yeah.
just much less racist.
If we be so yeah. It's funny, I don't feel like that. I still feel like, I came in, I've only been here 3 months. Griffin's been here since the beginning. I've only been here 3 months, and it's amazing how much I feel like I've learned. But it's that great, I forget what the quote is, but it's like, the more you learn, the more you learn, the more you don't know, or the more you learn that you don't know, like whatever that quote is.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's so true. Even in a community as small as VR is right now, things are happening so fast that stuff I would have studied when I first got here
doesn't mean anything
anymore. So it's like stuff that I've already learned, I'm now having to relearn 3 months later. It's 3 months. Imagine a year from now. So it's like playing catch up is hard, but it's like I keep making this joke. I feel like after 3 months I'm finally valuable to this team because I can finally do this stuff. But it's true. It takes a long time to learn how to stitch. Stitching is something that compositing is the closest we've come in 2D,
right?
And or traditional, and it's just a completely different way of thinking about the frame because the frame is gone.
Right.
Nothing is the frame. The frame is whatever direction you can look at. So
It's
yeah,
short. It's sort of like, I guess, like in the old days, like cutting and pasting film, right? Well,
learning what works exactly. Like we're learning where we can cut, where we can't cut, where we should fades. I've always hated fades in film because I think it's overused. But now in VR,
But it
that's
works
really the
really
only
well.
way. It works really well in VR because it looks cool when things are fading. You're like, I don't know. It's like it's a cool different way. Yeah.
What about like when like in Google Maps when you could do Street View? What about like doing that instead of like a fade or a hard
The
cut to a
hyper
new
jump?
scene, like kind of doing that like suction to like that?
Oh no, a
That
better
would work.
example of that is the Limitless opening. Like when you first watch the movie Limitless, that opening scene where it kind of like infinite zoom thing.
Yep. We've
Trek.
talked about that, doing we've talked about doing ideas like that, and
Interesting.
and just thinking about how that would look in a headset. Because while some stuff might work, because right now we're developing content for both Facebook and
YouTube
Facebook, YouTube, and then
headsets.
The headsets.
Yeah.
And so really that content should be created differently, but we're so early in the process that we don't know what works for both. So we're creating content and putting it on all platforms and trying to find out what works in the way you view it.
Is this-
I think Griffin gets more to it, yeah.
As everybody does
Right.
now. It's kind of across the board that there's just a lot of fun experimentation that's happening.
Yeah.
And so it's a really cool field to be in right now, just because of how open it is and how small it is. So like there was like Sundance was just happened, and VR was the talk of the town.
Yep.
And everybody knew everybody. Where like if you would see, like, if you were to buy a Samsung Gear VR, which is like the most consumer friendly, really good headset that you can buy, it's like if you have a Samsung phone already, the headset itself is $99. It's a great entry price.
Is it
but if you don't have it-
not the cardboard, right? The one with like LeBron
It's like-
James, like "Come train with me" kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that one. That's like
Nice.
that's what everyone recommends as like
Yeah.
the best consumer version of introduction to VR. So if you were to buy a Samsung Gear VR right now and spend 12 hours or a half day to a day like just watching everything, you could catch up on the history of VR. Like you could catch
Oh,
up
that's
on,
so cool. I
on
love
everything. Like they've done a really good job of curating what's good.
that. You mean content-wise, right?
Yeah, content-wise. Yeah,
Okay,
you could watch the original stuff, like the original thing, because everything's 2 to 3 minutes. There's a few that are like 10 minutes. So if you were to just jump into the world and like watch as much as you can today, you could be caught up tomorrow.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
Right,
I
and
was
that
just-
that shows how much content there is. It's, I mean, Discovery. It's like I love touting and I love bragging about it. We've put out like the most. Like we have or if not the most. I mean, we have 50 videos, 50 VR videos available to the public for free. That's a insane number.
It's huge. Nobody else, not a lot of people. I mean, even like the news outlets haven't posted that.
The New York
many.
Times has
No.
like 20,
Yeah.
if that.
Yeah.
And so
It's-
is it just you two you guys are stitching it together, right? Are you guys actually going out and accruing the content from people that have filmed, or are you guys doing, like, how does that work?
So we're part of a small team that does the heavy lifting of the majority of the work. We've worked with a few outside vendors to help shoot some of the stuff and stitch some of it, but everything that goes on the app and goes online runs through our team. Either we're stitching it, we're editing it, we're shooting it. I've been out in the field a lot over the last 9 months now.
And I'm hoping to get my leg soon.
But like, so I go out all the time and shoot, and like it's more like capture. It's more like it's capturing. So you put a camera rig down, you shoot you.
Talk about the recording process for
Yeah.
360. Like what cameras, what methods, or what you as
And
the
what
filmmaker
lens?
have to be
Like
conscious
like
of.
what's
Yeah.
what lenses?
So
Do you want to take shooting and I'll take editing?
Yes.
yeah, sure. So shooting, we've done it a bunch of different ways. So I used this line the other day, but it's like our rigs are our lenses. So we have bunch of different rigs, and everyone who shoots has a bunch of different rigs. Where when we're in really tight situations, we use 2 camera rigs because you can get really close to one camera. It creates this really crazy effect of being really in tight, and there's minimal stitch line if you put the camera in the right position. We use our 6 camera rig as our heavy lifter. It's our main rig, and we use GoPros like most of the people in the industry are using right now because they're so small. And the real problem with VR is the parallax. So the reason GoPros are great is because they're so small that the lenses can be right next to each other, and it minimizes the parallax to almost nothing. So you can be within 3 feet, and you can capture.
You explain what parallax is?
Yeah. So parallax is when it's like when you hold out your thumb and you close your eye and then you open another one. It's like your thumb looks like it moves, but it doesn't move. It's just that the angle that you're looking at it moves. So if you look at it together, it's in one spot. You close one eye, it's still there, and then you close the other one, and it's moved.
Well, it's the same idea as stereography with 3D. I mean, that's why they had to rig certain cameras so that you look through a mirror. Exactly. One eye emulates this one eye emulates this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's
minimizing that, right?
Right. It's minimizing the space between lenses so that it's number one to have the stitching and the cutting in frames. So if you were to get really close to the camera, it's to minimize the amount of cutting, because if one camera sees one thing and then it moves into a different camera, there's got to be enough information that overlaps between each camera to have all that information be in there. And then it's also for the reason of creating depth and stuff.
Right.
So we use the 6 camera rig, we've used 10 camera rigs, 14 camera rigs, and then for specific projects we use 1 camera and shoot everything individually. It just really depends on what it's per project our rigs change, and per shot our rigs change.
And these are just kind of geometrically Rubik's cube stacked on top of each other.
Very mathematical, down. Big out, really smart people put them together.
So how do you pull focus on all of those cameras? Because with 3D you have 2 ACs that are independently doing it, but if you have that many cameras, is it just purely reliant on autofocus on these cameras? Or
so with GoPros, there really isn't much of a focus.
Right.
So when we get past it, we're just going to have to set up the shot. And so GoPros work so well because they're so quick, and because we're Discovery VR, we capture things as they happen. Mm-hmm. We try not to set too much up. It's you try to just put the rig, and it's we're looking back into 1985 when John Hendricks created the Discovery Channel. It's he set camera rigs out to Serengeti and captured animals, and went to the safari and got giraffes, and it's
so it's more visual than narrative at this point.
Well, we have had narrative though. We're putting out these pieces that we're sponsored with Toyota with the RAV4, where it's a story. It's a take you around Austin story. We're trying to do both, but the cameras are definitely a limitation. And the I can't wait to use real cameras.
Yeah, when we figure, people are doing that now. People are using Reds.
The red,
Yep.
Aren't they 4mm lenses?
Yeah.
Red pancakes.
The pancake lenses. And that's the biggest problem with VR right now.
So our production, we use a bunch of different rigs for each individual situation. So we have 2 camera rigs that are customized GoPros that are... It's by a company, and they tear the lens off the GoPro, and then they put a new super wide lens, so it captures 220 degrees at a time with each angle, so that way it overlaps to make sure that you capture all 360 degrees. And then we use a 6 camera rig where it's just normal GoPros, and it just shoots an angle in every direction. And then we use 7s for when we're doing interviews and you want 1 camera looking at a person. It's our hero cam. And so it's not terribly different than normal production in the sense that you have different setups. You have different rigs and different arrangements for different situations and scenarios.
Have you seen the Ricoh Theta ones?
Yeah.
The ones that are just they just look they're as thin as an iPhone.
So that's basically the same idea as our 2 camera GoPro rig, is that it's 2 super wide lenses that shoot, and then there's 1 stitch point in the middle. The problem with Ricoh is that it only outputs a 1080p image.
Okay.
And so so 1080p sounds good, right? But then you push in, and your field of view is a portion of that 1080 image. So at any one time when you're looking at Ricoh Theta footage, you're looking at 240 or 360. Not 360, not in the 360 way, but 240 resolution.
You need 4K.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you need to shoot super high because you're just going to continue to push in on your field of view.
Yeah, and that's right now, when you upload it onto the Samsung Gear VR and you watch it in the phones, the quality is just not there yet because you're still limited by the screen of a smartphone.
Right.
With the Oculus, with the inception of the Oculus, that's going to really, when that comes out, that's going to be a game changer because those screens are going to support very high quality.
Each eye is 2K.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
And
that comes out later this year, correct?
It comes out Q1.
What's the price
it's already
point?
Pre-order. It's $599. Oculus is going to be an amazing product. It's going to be incredible. The resolution's going to be amazing. For us, what's exciting is the refresh rate, the latency. So when you turn your head right now with the DK2s, you get like 50 to 60 frames per second when you turn. And it's been like the super smart scientists have decided that like when we turn, we see basically 120
right,
frames
exactly.
per second.
Right.
And so with the Oculus, it's 90, which is so as we cut down that the barrier between when we can tell it's fake with this latency and between when we can get it real to be 120, we're cutting that down. This Oculus is going to be 90 frames per second, which is going to be so awesome.
Yeah, and we're getting close. Like,
Here's an interesting thing. Wait, so like our eyes see slightly more than like 24. Well, I'm sorry, like more than like 24 frames per second.
It's 120 that we
It's
essentially
like-
see.
Well, like in film, we're used to the more jittery 24
Yes.
frames per second. That's what I meant to say. So you think potentially in VR we will be used to the 90 frames per second instead of the full 120 frames per second?
I think so. I mean,
That's really interesting.
That is a good question. Again, that's one of those like too early to tell questions because when film came out, it was 24, but
And it was 24 for 80 years.
right,
And
and
it
like,
still
and
is,
that's
I mean.
why. Like, so now we're aiming for 120. I guess that's what you just said. We're aiming for 120 for the turn. So it depends on how quick that change is made.
Okay.
I mean, if we stay at 90 for 10 years, it's less likely that we're gonna change. Even if it's gonna be better, people will think it's too real. It's like more frames doesn't equal better. We saw
Right.
that with Peter Jackson's, The
Yeah,
Hobbit.
exactly.
When he released
60
it at
frame or 48,
people
right?
went
Yeah.
nuts.
That's what I heard. James Cameron was going to be shooting. I don't know if he is currently shooting Avatar 2, 3, and 4 at 120, but I heard him and his DP were thinking of shooting at 120 for avatars because they find that between 120 and 24 is kind of this uncanny valley, right?
That'd be amazing.
I don't
hope
know
he
why
does.
you would do. Yeah, but that would look like it's like hyperrealism.
Right.
It's like hyper real, and it starts to. I don't know.
Well,
film is
Avatar
24
is like mostly 3D, and the best video games right now on like PC run at 120 frames per second.
It's true.
So interesting.
That
I
is
wonder
true.
how they'll translate.
And that's interesting.
David, why don't we kind of talk about like the editing process of it as well? Because I know we kind of talked about the stitching, or I guess stitching would be more editing. So yeah, why don't we talk about that?
So after what Griffin talked about is all the shooting, you get a drive. You say you shot 1 terabyte of information. So usually what you do in the field is you create like rough stitches. So let's pretend that we don't do that just for the sake of linearism and explaining this. So you get a drive back, you come back to the office, you're like, all right, I've got all this footage, now I got to organize it. And this is something that in traditional, it's a lot easier to organize. And it took us a few months to figure out, and we're still figuring it out, how to organize this footage. Because it's 6 cameras, up to 14 cameras. And you have to, sometimes GoPros only shoot, when they shoot, they actually break clips up. If you shoot over 4 gigabytes, they break those clips up. So you have to merge all those clips, and then you have to figure out what clips go with which shot. And then you have to reorganize those.
Oh,
man. It's crazy. So once you have all your stuff
like
organized.
DIT like crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, really. And once you have all that organized, it's kind of fun. You stitching is like a puzzle. That's how I like to think of it.
Stitching is like a dark room.
Yeah.
Where you shoot it, you capture it, you put your rig down, you shoot it, and you kind of have an idea of what you shot because when you like our preview or like eye check is like you stand where the rig's gonna be and you turn your head and see what you're gonna see and it's like okay cool that looks good and then you put the rig down and then you walk away and so when you go back and start doing these rough stitches, it's like you all of a sudden see the image for the first time, and it's awesome.
Oh,
It's
that's
so cool. It's like film when you're developing, and all of a sudden it starts to slowly appear. It's like, oh wait, we got it. Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes, that's a great point. It does kind of feel like a dark room, because that is the first time you see the image. I mean, there are, for some cameras, there are ways to do smart previews, but nothing it's too time consuming. There's nothing out there that does it well and cost effectively.
Yeah.
You'd have to hardwire all the GoPros, and there's no reason for it. So like Griffin said, you turn your head and you look, and you're like, okay, this looks good. And that's about as real of a preview as you're going to get. So you come back, you stitching it, you upload it to once you have all your shots, you take shot 1, which is six. Let's just go with a 6 rig. You have 6 shots. Really, that's 6 cameras going in 6 different directions for 1 shot to make up 1 shot, and you throw it into a software, and the software does a rough stitch. Mm-hmm. Now, almost never. I've only ever had it work out once, where you throw it in and the horizon's perfectly straight, and I have to do no work in the other software, which I'll talk about later. That happened one time. It was great. It basically never happened. So you have
and
to
that was amazing, I'm sure, right?
It was amazing. It was great. It was a shot that didn't matter, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So I don't believe it.
What?
I don't believe it ever happened.
It did, dude. We'll talk about it. Yeah. So for this, it never happens. So you have to, once you get it in there, you have to change the horizon line to match a horizon line, because you get it and it's all wonky. Mm-hmm. And then you have to figure out camera priority, and and to do that, you take it from AutoPano Video, which is like the Premiere, and you take it into AutoPano Giga, which is like the After Effects.
Okay.
And you using masking points and control points and a whole lot of other stuff, you make the image. Algorithms and math and nonsense. I hated math. That's why I'm a huge fan of After Effects. But it's a very powerful software, and we love it. So it's super simple. We mask it. We figure out what cameras get priority. I'm saying it's super simple. It's not. Some shots take hours. And then you're good to go. And you can, once you have this final stitched shot, you output a MP4
or higher codecs, depending on how, the software that we're using. There's a few softwares we use. We use one that was just recently acquired by GoPro because it fits into the ecosystem really well. But when that software currently offers uncompressed, full raw image sequences or MP4. So we kind of have one option, especially because of just how production works and how quick turns and everything.
Right.
So it's just MP4s, and it's okay for now because we're stuck to the delivery platform, and the highest quality, because we render 4K, and it's awesome, and the GoPros, it's you get the highest quality thing you can when you do raw, when you shoot in RAW, and you shoot at the lowest ISO, and you can change as much color as possible on the GoPro in everything, and when you deliver it, you're still just looking at it on 2 screens in your phone.
True, right?
It's you'd never view it on a super awesome resolution, amazing quality.
It's the same idea as right now with 4K TVs. It's
right.
There's not quite as much content for 4K TVs, which I think is parallel.
But it's even less, because when you send an image and you watch it in a head-mounted display, you cut the image in half, so your resolution's in half.
Oh, right.
So it's if we're giving them the best possible quality image that we can produce, and then it just gets degraded as it is. And it's not like everyone. So you can watch New York Times and Milk and all these amazing people who are making all this amazing VR right now, but you're watching it this really low level because of your consumer-friendly head-mounted display.
Yeah.
So once the Oculus comes, that's where that changes.
And
we can't wait.
Oculus is a great product in theory. But it's a $600 product, and it only talks to really high-powered graphics cards that only exist in high-powered PCs. So it's going to turn into a $1,500 device really quickly,
right?
Which is great for the high-end gamer market. But Oculus right now is getting a lot of attention for being a really awesome consumer product, and it will eventually. but until people all have these like super awesome graphics cards.
Yeah.
Well, and especially with Moore's law, there'll be, in a couple years, people will have those computers. So it's just you guys are in the unknown right now. You're in the R&D to figure out what you can do right now and kind of try and see the curve of where things are going.
Yeah.
It's incredibly exciting too.
Yeah, it is. And just to finish out real quick, we once we have that high quality MP4, we just edit like traditionally. We edit with Premiere and After Effects. We use a plugin with After Effects called Skybox that helps us.
Go Skybox.
Yes, helps us with tools in wrapping text, and many other things that we have yet to dive into, like stabilization and things like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and because it's crazy. And that's pretty much it. We end up with files that are like less than a gig. I mean.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, and it looks pretty good, and but the original source file management's been huge. That's taken us a long time to kind of figure out, and I mean we just bought like a 48 terabyte RAID because GoPros are small and they don't shoot to like a crazy codecs like a RED, but when you're shooting 6 times what a GoPro shoots because you're shooting with 6 GoPros. So everything you do times 6.
14.
Or 14, and it's nuts. So I can't imagine what the RED people do when they're shooting VR and they're getting 6 or 10 or however many REDs they use. They're getting that times 10. It's crazy. Jeez. Data management is a nightmare, and we're all trying to figure that
DITs
out.
will never go out of a job at this point.
Absolutely not.
What do you think the future like? So I see a lot of these videos, especially like on your website, are like people exploring kind of like vlog style, which I love. I think that's awesome. Do you see like a future in like fictional storytelling with VR?
Yeah, I've done a lot of thinking about that, and like when I first started here, I would have said absolutely not. I would have said traditional fiction storytelling has no part in VR. I have since changed my mind.
Really?
Wow.
Yes. In 3 months, I think there is potential. I think, I mean, even Steven Spielberg, I read a quote today. He says pretty soon, in the next 20 years, 30 years, maybe even before that, people are going to experience movies. They're not going to go to the movies.
Right.
And Oculus is working on crazy stuff where you can put on the Oculus and be in a room with people. So it's like people are complaining about when you're in the Gear VR, you're sectioned off from the world. But I think, with the development of AR, mixing AR and VR and filmmaking and storytelling is going to be nuts.
Is AR like audio reality?
Augmented reality.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So
Sorry.
and basically, VR is full immersion. AR is mixing. It's like Google Glass.
Okay.
Google Glass was AR that didn't take
way
off.
before.
Right.
Yeah.
So AR would be better for. I mean, once they get the technology for like lenses or something like that. Once because that's the next step after glasses, right? So
Yes.
A cool version of AR you can look at and just like drool over on the internet right now is the Microsoft HoloLens.
Yeah.
It's a really amazing piece of technology. It's like on every cool geek website that always drools about it when something cool comes out. AR is a really exciting future. I think it's a little farther out than VR. There's amazing experiences being all the time. I remember
Snapchat, the Snapchat facing.
that's AR.
reality.
yeah.
Yes,
So,
I
that's a
love
perfect
that.
example.
Snapchat
Yes.
face.
Oh
Yep.
wow.
Yeah, and when those blend together, I've heard people talk about those blending together. I mean, there's a game that I saw. I forget what system it's on, but you put on the headset, you see there's a pass-through camera, you see your world like it is, and it creates monsters and things that break through walls, and that's the HoloLens, right? And it's, oh my god, it was unreal when I saw that. And like you can hide behind tables and they know there's a table there. And I'm like, this is ridiculous, this is the future. And
Right.
but
Schizophrenia.
yeah, you're right. But anyway, taking it back to the original question, traditional filmmaking like fiction and VR, I don't think anybody's figured it out yet, but
there have been some really cool examples.
There have been
of
and
potential avenues.
Anything we could like look
potential
up?
avenues, right? I'm sorry.
Anything we could like look up later on, or?
So there were 16 16 VR movies that like were really the high touted ones that came out of Sundance.
They're on Milk now.
Yeah, they're on Milk VR, which is like, we talk about it like the Netflix inside of Samsung Gear, but there is also Netflix inside of Samsung Gear. But Milk is kind of like Milk is kind of like the home base for a lot of the cool stuff happening in VR right now. It's Milk VR and the Oculus Store are like the two main places where if you just kind of watch the featured page, you see whatever cool happened yesterday in VR.
I was going to say that was kind of, I mean, I wanted to, Chris kind of got into it about, the future of VR. And I was going to ask, like, do you guys see it more as a medium for gaming and interaction like that, or film? But I think you guys kind of touched on something interesting. I was going to say, like, how are people going to consume it as, like, is there an equivalent to a Netflix, and is there, a kind of thing like that? And I think you kind of touched on that. So what is like the way people are going to be able to consume it and scroll through all the different kinds? And
that's something we're working on now. Like, how do we show? Our app right now has a ton of experiences on that, but right now you have to scroll. How about you put those experiences in VR and you look around, or you're given a map and you can point, and there's a couple experiences there, and like we don't know, and that doesn't exist yet.
UI will be a fun challenge in 2016.
Yes, and like and this is all stuff, like all the questions you're asking are like the right questions. These are all the stuff we're thinking of and trying to figure out answers to. Me and Griffin and that the interactive team here and pretty much everybody in VR is trying to figure out how to do what you just said, and just how to almost organize the delivery.
In terms of some like the ways that people are going to experience VR, I think there's a couple different avenues that are going to be really, really obvious really quickly. Education, easy. It's like if you can stand in a moment in history and use that as your history class and listen to a general talk about what they're about to do, and then all of a sudden a battle starts, and it's like, as a teacher they can explain that this is why this side doesn't like this side and why they're fighting, and then you break it out, and all of a sudden you're inside of somebody's chest, and you're looking around at a heart, and then you look down, you look at a spleen, and it's like all amazing graphics that show you and give you
kids,
information.
If you'll turn to your left.
It's like the real Magic School Bus.
To his point, that's not something that's
this year
going to happen. That's
something that has happened.
I mean, I did that today. Yeah. I went inside the human brain.
Oh my goodness! I can't even fathom.
I accidentally clicked that. It was super weird. It was super awesome though. It was in stereo. It was stereoscopic. So stereoscopic 360 is stereoscope. So it's 3D 360. And that's going a whole nother level.
Oh yeah.
And then there's stereoscopic 3D and stereoscopic audio in the same, and that's like the dream.
That's a different podcast.
So so since plays and then film and then TV, everyone to YouTube, everyone's been experiencing what the creator has been like wanting them to experience, and now the future is every experience is going to be different. So like the hypothetical future movie theater, everyone's going to be looking at a different thing at the same time, creating their own story.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that's going to be a new thing too, is the create your own story stuff, like being able to live in an experience, and then there's decisions to be made, and then you look and you like hold it and you press a button, and that's the way I want to go. So you follow that person, and choose your own story lends itself very well to VR. And that's where, like to answer an earlier question, fiction filmmaking. It's weird to call it filmmaking at this point, but fiction filmmaking is choose your own story. And like what Griffin said, fictional Civil War battles, the educational aspect is crazy. I think it has crazy potential there. Taking students who normally wouldn't get to like teaching the students about Egypt and then going to Egypt. That's going to be huge. That's
that's amazing.
And people are going to get excited about education again.
So that education was one of the points that I think is really obvious. The other one is like training. So the military has been doing this for years, where all of a sudden you can have soldiers go into the experiences and like the places that they're going to be, and it's like a way for them to train and look for things. So it's like that moment in Men in Black where he's like looking around, and it's like he has to make the decisions on like who he has to shoot at. It's kind
Right.
of similar, where it's like, but you can do that over and over and teach your brain how to think. So training is going to be big in every format, not just the military, but like if you have to do a skill and you need to practice that skill without screwing up, you can do it in VR and just watch it happen over and over again and get the memory and get the mind
Stimulated,
brain.
basically.
Yeah, it's like you see it over and over again.
Right.
Sports, huge, obvious. Where if all of a sudden and they're doing this right now, so it's not like giving anything away, but the NBA can all of a sudden set. Right now they have 200 courtside seats. Now they have unlimited courtside seats.
Oh my gosh.
So they can at this NBA Finals, you're going to be able to buy a seat, or I think they've announced that. If not this NBA Finals, the next NBA Finals, they'll be able to sell a courtside seat to watch the Warriors destroy everybody.
Ah, that's right. I was just gonna say, you mean the one that the Warriors are gonna be in, right?
Yeah. So that's just basketball. Like that plays to every single major sport, basic sport.
Broadway.
I love being at Discovery because we own Eurosport. We just acquired them 2 years ago, and Eurosport has rights to the Olympics for the next 18 or 10 years or whatever it is.
Wow.
And so all of a sudden you're gonna be able to watch Olympic sports in VR, which is just kind of the natural progression of content consumption, where all of a sudden like you can be there. It's not, you can watch the pole vault and like be right under the pole vault. You get a brand new perspective and a unique perspective every time, because you can choose to watch the coach as he reacts to his athlete performing, or you can watch the performance and then you can rewind and watch both. So the rewatchability of all these videos is incredible. Where
It's like Sword Art Online.
It's like what?
It's like that show Sword Art Online. It's like an anime show on Netflix, but you have the ability to rewind. This is blowing my mind right now.
Right.
And sorry.
No, events is a big one, but like, so there's a lot of really obvious things that people are going to hit right away. The one I'm super excited about is documentaries. So, like 360 video to me is the truest form of documentary storytelling, because the editor, the director, the shooter can't edit, because what's there is what actually happened. And having a small camera filled with little GoPros that like are totally unobtrusive, it almost makes people react way too real. So if you drop that camera in the middle of a room, the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Huffington Post have been doing a great job following the political campaign with 360 cameras. If you put the camera in the middle of a room, you get real reactions. It's not like there's a crew with a boom guy and a director and a producer. It's like you drop the camera in the middle, and all of a sudden that's what's actually happening, because they kind of forget that the camera's there and there's not obtrusive. It's really just momentary. So I think documentaries are going to be an amazing part of this whole thing.
And most people don't know it's a camera rig. Like if they don't look at it closely, they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, shooting. And they're like, oh, those are GoPros. Oh yeah, I know those. It's like, so it's funny, people act real because they don't know they're being filmed.
Right.
Now.
And that's kind of half a joke, but another avenue is Broadway shows. The opera. The Lion King put and I'm not just saying he was talking courtside. So you're talking about selling seats, watching the show. But imagine being on stage during the training, or the rehearsal process. Seeing the rehearsal process in VR of a theater production, being on stage is something that giving people experiences that they could go to is cool, like sports. Giving people experiences they could never go to, like being in the middle of a Broadway show, or being on underwater. There's a couple underwater ones or being inside the volcano doing this complete CG experience. Complete CG experiences.
Okay, I was gonna say no one's gonna go on an actual volcano.
No. but complete CG experiences. We did one here. It's called the Space Escape.
Yep.
And that was phenomenal. You're in space, and it's like
I've heard about that one. You guys did that
cool.
one? Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And it's great. It's complete CGI. So it's out of my realm. But it was cool, and I think...
It was a really fun one to produce.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different avenues with this. There's CGI, there's 360 video, there's games, there's entertainment. VR, there was a website I went to. VR isn't going to be a thing. VR is going to be everything.
It's going to be the thing.
Oh my god.
It's going to be the thing.
How does somebody get into this? Okay,
I fell into it.
I'm 19. Like, how... if I want to get into VR, what do I do?
To be honest, when I was 19, I thought VR was like 20 years out. And I mean, 6 months ago, I would have never thought that I would be here. 4 months ago, I would have never thought I would be here.
Mm-hmm.
The easiest way is same thing I tell people who are doing traditional filmmaking, is just go out and shoot. And I know that sounds hard because you have to buy the rig. It might be expensive early on.
How much is a rig? I want
Well,
one.
I don't think we can really talk super specifics, but if you think about
Right.
6 GoPros, it's basically that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys probably
And,
have the proprietary, like apparatuses and stuff like that are kind of exclusive. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah,
Well, no,
every company has their own proprietary
Right.
camera right now.
You get it
Every-
3D
Okay.
printed.
Yeah,
Right, and they're 3D printed, and you can. I mean, consumers can buy them, but they're expensive for consumers. So it's like,
Okay.
so you can still do that. It's hard right now. It's hard. It's not as easy as you. Like I always tell people, you want to get into filmmaking, shoot with your iPhone first, and then graduate to a better camera. Because everybody's all
Right.
about getting the best, like Reds. I'm like, no, shoot. If you can shoot on an iPhone, you can shoot theoretically you can frame on a Red. But anyway, that's another
Reach.
podcast.
Yeah.
So, but VR is
Reach.
different. VR and yeah, it's different, and
The
it's
barrier
hard to
event-
break into.
the barrier of entry right now is just a little bit different because you need insane processing power to be able to render out. Because like each camera pulls in between a 2K and a 4K video,
Yeah.
and then multiply by 6, and so then you have to downsize into 4K basically,
Mhm.
and not your average Mac Pro can do that.
No, and my laptop that handles Premiere and After Effects at the same time very well handles auto panel and
Doesn't.
stitching terribly.
It
Oh,
doesn't handle it.
So processing power is through the roof.
It's I can do it, but it's really crappy. And it takes forever and
Render farms are a very common occurrence among VR production companies.
Are you able to like use proxy files to edit and stitch and then export the real thing, or?
not to stitch.
Okay.
We can use proxy. We can output an HD stitched file
And then just-
edit in Premiere like that.
and then just
'cause that's
reconnect.
quicker.
Yeah.
And then you reconnect.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not really a good way to stitch in proxy yet. It's coming.
A lot of this is online editing.
Okay.
Yes.
So I have 2 questions. First of all, how close are we to like the Minority Report scene where they're experiencing it like that?
That's
It's kind of there.
It's kind of there. That's what I was gonna say.
Wow. Oh my god.
I mean, but you're talking about the scene where he's walking through and all the ads are like coming to him.
No, not that. The scene
Oh,
where
okay.
he goes to the guy. He already has the Tom Cruise already has the what are they called, the
person,
the
yeah.
precogs, and he is just walking with her through the area where they have all the VR rooms, and they meet up with that guy who's like kind of shady. But you keep going by these rooms where one dude is like accepting an award, and
Yeah,
one dude is
I
like,
forgot about
he's
that
like, I want to
scene.
shoot my boss, and he's like, get out of here.
I
I mean, we aren't there.
we're not there. Yeah, you misunderstood your question. Whoa.
Yeah. I was just kidding, though, because that's
But-
like that would be gnarly.
But like to your point, places for people to go to experience. Like I saw something today. A guy was running on like a treadmill, but it was like a circular treadmill. It was weird, and he was running in place with a gun. He's apparently on a battlefield. Those are around in like demo versions. So in the next 10 years, you'll be able to go hopefully to places. Video game arcades
To an
are
arcade.
going to be VR arcades.
Wow.
It's going to be crazy.
That's
Have you
the
guys read-
craziest. Oh my gosh.
Arcades coming back? What?
Everything seems so like retro. Like I love the thought that, I mean, you guys were talking about, we're essentially bringing back early, early in the early 1900s, late 1800s. We're essentially
Yeah.
experiencing that, and it's at like an accelerated course where we're going to experience that for a bit, and then we'll almost bring like the arcades back, and then we'll bring back, in your household. It's like everything is on this accelerated retro
everything-
course.
Yeah, everything old is new again. It's,
Yeah.
it's like the theme they use for the new Star Wars. It's like everything old is new again.
It's
Yeah.
interesting. Like if year one, let's say, was last year. There were obviously VR videos made before that, but last year was when it kind of took hold, and there were
Yeah.
the first head-mounted displays that came out and everything.
Yeah.
Let's say year one was last year.
Mhm.
If it took 40 years or 30 years to get to a point where from filmmaking, from like when the first 24 frames per second film camera was invented. If it took 20 to 30 years to get to a point where like real cinematic experiences were created, I think it's going to take us 4, 2. I think it'll happen at the end of this year.
Hopefully, it'll happen quickly. I mean, because there's
Yeah.
because the technology's better, and the technology is getting better every day. Because Oculus, and I mean, I'm not even going to try to name all the companies that are working on this. But even us, we're trying out new things. Like I don't know how much I can talk about, but no, it's a serious question. But like for example, time lapses. Time lapses are cool in 2D. Time lapses in VR are something completely different.
There's a really cool time lapse we posted on our new Toyota series. It's in episode 4. I was in Austin a few weeks ago, and I shot like a 6-hour time lapse with these perfect puffy clouds moving over, and like all the people running around it. And it's like, because it's amazing when you can watch time change and control your head motion and watch it happen in like the matter of seconds. It's an incredibly time lapses to me have always been like just really cool, like niche-y things. This is nuts.
Yeah.
It's like you watch it and it is crazy.
I'm sure it is. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
The future is now.
Yeah, we can't brush over this. Griffin, you actually taught 360 video to Casey Neistat in New York. What was that like?
I did. It was incredible. I was in New York on another project, and I just reached out. I just wanted to like have breakfast with him. Like I've been looking up to Casey for as long as I can remember. I remember watching. I was when I was like 11 or 12. I was emailed his video, the iPod video that like made him famous or got him on the road to fame. I remember getting emailed that video when I was like 11. And so basically since then he's been kind of my idol in like DIY filmmaking and like just figure it out and like the story is king and all this stuff, and just his style and his work ethic, and like I always feel inadequate, and it's like not like I feel like I'm doing some really fun stuff, but like I always feel inadequate whenever I watch a Casey vlog, because I just know that he was up till 3 a.m. that night making that vlog, and like I watch it every morning with my breakfast. He's just such an idol. And so when I was in New York on a VR project, I was like, yo man, I saw you just posted a 360 video with a Rico. Come on, man, it's a Rico. The quality's terrible. And I was like just totally honest with him. The email is so funny. He's like, okay, can you be at my office tomorrow at 7 a.m.? I was like,
wow.
Yeah, sure, of course. And so I got there at 7 a.m. before the next day of work for me. And I was totally just to like talk about it. He's like, do you have your stuff on you now? And I had it because I was just going to set right afterwards. So I had my 360 camera. I showed him. He's like, can you like hang out for like an hour? So, yeah, sure. And he's like, okay, and he pulls in his assistant, buddy Jack, and we just shoot this crazy video where it's like an office tour, and I show him how to do it and everything. It was incredible. I mean, it was like some of the most fun I've ever had in my life. I met my idol, and I got to shoot a video with him, and then like it was incredible. I used like I taught him how to stitch, and he comes in, and so he bought all that stuff like right then. He has a camera store in the basement of his office that he just went and bought all, like 10 GoPros right away. And,
oh my god, that guy!
The guy's
so casual.
The guy's crazy. And so 2 weeks later, because that was like one thing, and the video did great. It's got like 1 million views, and it was so cool. I love making these 360 videos right now and posting to these like really popular distribution channels, because it's the first time people watch it. Like somehow every time these videos are posted, it's like the first time they experience 360, and they can like realize when they're watching on their iPhone, they're looking down and like, oh, I just look at my feet the whole time, and then they look up and it's like, oh. What? That's so cool. And so like
every time
all the comments on that YouTube were like, this is so amazing, Casey, you got to do more of these, whatever. And so like 2 weeks later, he's trying to shoot for the first time by himself, and he calls me, and I just Casey Neistat, hey Casey, and he's like, I'm gonna throw this thing out the freaking window. He just couldn't figure it out. It was such a weird process for him because he's so quick. He's like, I have to make this thing right now, and I have to shoot it, I have to edit it.
He hates technology. Like, he just hates any fancy cameras or anything like that.
He shoots half of his vlog with his iPhone. And so for him, it was such a weird process. He's like, get back up here as soon as you can. So the next time I was up in New York shooting a project, I shot another thing with him that he was going to stitch. It was like I challenged him. I was like, Casey, this time it's your turn to stitch. Like, you have to do this by yourself completely. He's like, okay, I like it. That's a good idea. And
That was the one with the fireworks?
yeah, so the one with the fireworks, I helped him with. I kind of sat with him while we did it. And then I went up again, and it was like in a vlog that we were trying to expose the underground purse selling market in New York. So we walked around with this huge ass monopod and all of his cameras and tried to shoot this like one of his crazy videos that uncovers a certain part of New York. And we shot it. It was great. Like we bought a purse and we almost got punched, and Casey was like, "Oh, that was great. Like I think we got really good stuff." And walked back to his studio. He starts putting together. He's like, "Oh, Candace called. I gotta go." So he just leaves. And he's like, "I'll do this later. I'll talk to you." And he just never figured out how to stitch it. So that all that footage is sitting cold, and I'm like, "Casey, just give me the damn footage. I'll do it for you." I think I'm talking to him right now about doing something else, but that's such an amazing experience personally for me. Like I feel the weight of the brand with Discovery VR. Like we're working for a company that's been making experiences forever. Discovery is one of the most popular brands in the world. Yeah. And then so personally, there's like this huge grandiose amazing feeling making videos for Discovery VR. And then on the flip side, there's Casey Neistat, who's like so DIY, so independent, so like, I'm just going to make it, and I'm just going to post it, and if it's not perfect, it's whatever. For Discovery VR, it has to be perfect. Like, we have to make sure the stitch lines are great, we have to make sure the story's great, we have to make sure the music, like, everything. And Casey's just like, I'm going to make it, and then I'm going to forget about it. And I love that. That's personally how my brain kind of works. Not for a work environment. Like, but when I'm working for Discovery, it's like, it's got to be perfect. I check everything. But when I'm working, like, on my own and just, like, making fun content that just I post personally onto my social channels, like, I love the Casey style. I think it's fantastic. It's
just
never,
go for it.
Never let perfection be the enemy of good enough. And it's such a fun way to work. But for him, currently 360 video doesn't work because it's so time intensive.
Yeah, even the roughest 360 video is time intensive.
So for him, the Rico's great because the Rico stitches by itself. It puts together a rough stitch, and that's as far as the process can go with Rico. But it's so low quality that he has given up on it. I think he threw that one away.
Out the window.
Smashed it
Out
with
the
an axe.
window. But yeah, the Casey Neistat experience was pretty special, and I hope to continue to just do fun side projects with him.
So I was wondering, I mean, if you guys don't want to talk about this, it's totally fine. I was just curious if you guys have had to deal with kind of the ethics of VR, and like maybe have had to have any conversations with people about, like, you know, people are all up in arms about the possibility of getting lost in VR and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys have had to deal with that at all, or if that's something that you guys have had to think about.
Yeah. Have you... Oh, there we go. Have you read a book called Ready Player One? Have any of you read that?
Oh, it's Steven
becoming a
Spielberg's going to
movie.
make that movie.
He's going to make that movie, which I'm super excited about. I will be the first one to tell you Steven Spielberg is my favorite director.
Nice.
Even though I
You
went to film
sound
school.
like him.
Thank you.
I'm gonna
Oh my
say
God,
that.
That's like the best. That
Oh,
is the
no.
best
What did you
compliment
do?
I know. That was literally the best thing he could have said. I am jazzed right now. No, and so he's going to direct that movie. It's going to be fantastic. Super excited. Anyway, so that book. See, now I can't remember the question.
It was.
I was talking about the ethics of
The
VR.
ethics. So that book is like all about like those conversations of losing yourself in VR. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
That book is all about losing yourself in VR and how people go as an escape. Movies are an escape. Theater is an escape. Sometimes we use entertainment to escape, and that's really what it is used for. And VR is so immersive that some people do think that. I mean, there was some guy that just spent 48 hours straight in VR. He slept.
No.
Yes.
Oh, no.
And so it can be done.
Right.
And I think there will be. It's like those people that play Second Life, World of Warcraft, the high end gamers.
Oh yeah, it comes down to the person.
It does. It really does. It comes down to the person. I personally could never do that, but I say that now. In
Right.
20 years, when it's almost like I'm there, and if the world I'm in is kind of shitty, it's like, well, this one's really cool, and I can
Right.
have different experiences. I mean, in Ready Player One, he flies an X-Wing. Well, holy crap!
Yeah,
I
who
can't-
doesn't
I mean,
wanna
come
do
on,
that
who doesn't
for
want
all
to do that?
day?
And
Yeah.
the way their gear, like, if our gear ever gets there, it's fully immersive. You have you have hands now in VR, which you don't consumers don't
like
have
little
now.
joysticks.
You have joysticks. So like in the book they have gloves and they have boots and whatever. But like we'll get to a point where we have hands in VR, and we'll start to we'll have arms, and our body will eventually get there all the way. Right now it's our eyes. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty soon we're gonna see it's gonna be more than that very soon.
I think it comes down to the number of senses that you hit. So right now we've got your eyes and your ears. Soon it'll be touch with super basic, but like rumble pads, like how your PlayStation 1 had a rumble pad. Like the things you hold will have rumble pad and will make you feel, and you'll have rumble pads all over you, and just you'll feel things. Yeah. Another fun part is like sitting in a 4D chair, and talking about like the experience that Dave was talking about like standing on a moving treadmill and having you move through, and like that's your legs. A lot of these experiences are kind of, and there's this amazing company in Colorado who has created a laser tag environment.
I've seen that. I saw that video. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's
cool.
like you're watching a headset, you're using a headset, but they created like a full like real drywall experience where there's nothing on the walls. It's just like plain with sensors so that the headset can read what's happening, and where you're moving. But when you touch it, you feel it. Like there's something there, and you continue through the maze, and it's like, I think it's like a myth basically game, and you like move through and you experience it. It's going to be
So it's going through an evolution essentially.
Yeah.
It's got it. Okay.
Yeah, and it's going through an evolution very quickly. So in a year, like I can't tell you. I don't think Griffin or I could tell you what VR is going to look like in a year. Because a year ago, we definitely could not have told you what it would look like on February 4th, 2016.
Right.
We couldn't have done it. Right. And it's only going to get better. I can tell you that. Because people are not when I first started, on November 1st, I was like, I don't know if this is going to take off. I wasn't fully invested. Well, in 3 months, that has completely changed. I am fully invested. There is definitely, and maybe it doesn't take off in fiction, narrative filmmaking right away. But even if it never does, education alone is going to be huge, and entertainment in different ways. Your entertainment's going to see this shift. Right now, we're trying to force short film into VR or theater into VR. Well, 360 video VR is going to be its own thing. And we have to see. It's going to be very exciting to see in the next couple of years what that language is going to say. We've had theater, we have film, we have photography. What is the language of VR going to be?
Right. So it's its own entity.
That's awesome. A quick example of that is like how they used to shoot on like sound stages completely for film, where they would set up the stage with 3 walls like you would in a play, and then all of a sudden they realized, oh wait, we can have like a full
Citizen
room.
Kane.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're gonna those moments will happen where all of a sudden we start creating our own versions of the medium.
And that's incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
Me and him studying, at JMU, studying these things, and now we're kind of living it, and it's kind of freaking cool. So we're very lucky and blessed to be where we are.
We covered a lot here, man. I mean, we're an hour and 17 minutes in. Any closing questions from anyone, like right away?
Dude, no. All I know is that I think I'm gonna start getting into VR. I'm serious. Like this has been the most exciting conversation I've had in so long. So
guys, you guys are like the Lumiere brothers. Like I'm serious. Like. I'm just like, what? Like, before, I've seen these videos. I thought they were interesting. I knew they were kind of the future, but I'm just seeing, like, history repeating itself, but, like, evolving into a whole new thing. And I'd love to, like see where you guys are at 6 months from now, because you're going to have so many new, like, stories to tell.
I want to be working with you guys 6 months from now.
Like, that's insane. Wow. So, yeah.
All right, dudes.
Thank you so much.
Where can we find Discovery VR? What apps are out there? Where can we find you guys?
So, I mean, not so shameless plug because we've been talking about the whole time.
Shameless plug it away.
Discovery VR, discoveryvr.com. Download the app, Discovery VR. It's on every major app store. It shows off the entire breadth of the content we've created. We've got some of the most, my opinion is my own, some of the most impressive live action, like 360 videos VR that you can find out there. Again, so Discover VR is where you should totally go to download all your fun clips of everything from Gold Rush, like a behind the scenes videos of our Gold Rush, to Puppy Bowl, to the vlogging style that you were talking about, where it's for a sponsored Toyota piece, and we have so much coming. Like, it's crazy how much stuff is coming up. But I don't want to just show off ourselves, because the VR world is still so small and so inclusive. I recommend the New York Times app. If you're interested in like journalism VR, it is by far the most impressive collection of videos that I know. If you have the lucky opportunity of owning a Samsung phone, buy a Gear VR. It's $99. It will change It'll change how you think about video right away when you put it on. You walk into the Oculus store, and all of a sudden you can experience the world, not just through Discovery VR, but then Marriott's put up they've put up some sponsored content. The Martian, so that the amazing Matt Damon film,
awesome.
They came out with a 20-minute version of The Martian where you can actually kind of interact with things. Oh my
goodness.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it's insane. Wow. What else? What else is super cool?
You didn't mention the app, did you?
Oh, yeah, I mentioned Discovery VR.
Yeah, like the app is on Samsung and iPhone and all the app stores.
All the major
it was cool, and it's cool to your iPhone acts as a magic window. That was the first. I was sitting in a Starbucks. I'll never forget it. I was sitting in a Starbucks, and Griffin was like, "Hey, check out this app," and I was like, "Okay." This is before I knew I was going to be working for him. And I look, and I'm like looking, and then I turn, I'm like, "Holy crap!" And I'm like looking around, and my friend comes up. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm doing 360 video." She'd never heard of it. And it's crazy. So then the first time I did the Gear VR, I almost fell over because it was so immersive. It was the space escape, and I fell into a chair, and it was awesome. And so if you have the opportunity to buy the Gear VR, do it. Do not even think about it. It makes it so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as kind of like an aggregate of some of the better content that comes up, YouTube, like the YouTube 360 page, is a great home for kind of what happened yesterday in VR. Whenever we post a video, it usually goes there, and whenever anyone cool posts a video, it usually goes there. So if you're just interested in what we're talking about right now, just go click on that and click on the first 5 videos you see, and you get a better idea of what we're talking about. But yeah, Discover VR.
Yeah, it's our latest experiences. We're rolling out a lot of stuff for Toyota, and that can be seen on the app. That can be seen on Facebook.
Mythbusters.
Mythbusters is also coming. So yeah, I think that's what we're allowed to talk about that's coming. So stay tuned.
Yeah,
we got our plugs in.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. No. Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. Like, just mind blown after mind blown. Like, soon we're gonna be in the Matrix.
Yep.
Soon.
Well, you're welcome, dude. It was a lot of fun talking to you guys about it. I love talking, so this is perfect.
We're there now.
No.
Thank you guys for listening to Your Film, a Playground podcast. My name is Jordan. We have Chris G. Presents and Troy Nikolic, and we'll see you guys next week on episode 4.